Triple-digit temperatures will hit the Midwest as the last 3 weeks go down in history as the hottest ever recorded on Earth.
The bad news is that the economic losses have been growing very rapidly.
The economic damage is growing hugely, 7 times more than it was in the 1970s.
On behalf of the Council, our members, and the staff of the American Geographical Society, it's my pleasure to welcome you to Geography 2050, the changing map of risk, hazards, and finance, our 9th annual symposium in the Geography 2050 series. Since its inception, Geography 2050 has tried to provide a forum for discussion and debate from a future-thinking perspective. In fact, we feel that this is one of the things that makes this meeting different from many conferences you regularly attend. Whether it was urban centers in 2015, mobility in 2017, borders in 2019, or food last year, we have tried to set the stage to look into the future, parenthetically 2050, so that we could be ready and prepare. We still think this meeting that way, and the discussions of the program committee, they are always focused on preparing an agenda for you that proposes we geographically and geospatially guess, speculate, and even dream about what is coming up. As we developed the agenda for this year's symposium, it struck me, however, that this year is just a bit different. Yes, we are looking to the future, and as many of our speakers are from the insurance business, we all know that they're in the business of trying to predict the future. But it seems to me that so much of what we think is going to happen in the future, in fact, is happening now. How many times have you heard over the past year that some sort of very bad climate bar that wasn't supposed to happen until 2025, 2030, or 2050 isn't waiting and has already happened? One can almost say that 2023 is the new 2050, or 2050 is the new 2023. And for many of us, as we deal with the practical reality of what is happening, that means the future for so many issues is really only next week. So as our opening video noted, we have to get to work. The time is now to discuss practical solutions to the challenges facing Earth. What are the risks and hazards, and how can we mitigate, adapt, and respond to them? And what will we be able to do in terms of financing the resources necessary to achieve the results that we want? We need all the expertise we can muster in this room to contribute to the worldwide discussion so we together go down the right path. We are geographers. This is our lane. This is our wheelhouse. And this is our expertise. A lot of people are counting on us. Since the beginning of the symposium, the Earth Institute here at Columbia University has been gracious to work with us and host this event. Last year, Columbia University expanded the work of the Earth Institute and inaugurated the new Columbia Climate School to provide scholarly and practical leadership as the nation and the world tries to figure out how to understand and address issues associated with climate change. This new addition to Columbia is an extraordinary commitment, and we at AGS are proud to work with the Climate School. Over the next couple of days, you will notice the expertise and foresightedness of the Columbia Climate School and what they bring to our discussions. Thank you, everyone at Columbia. We have a lot of ground to cover today and tomorrow, so let's not lose any time. Ladies and gentlemen, the chairman of AGS, Dr. Chris Tucker, and our president, Dr. Marie Price.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Geography 2050. This is the 10th time that we have gathered to bring together a strategic dialogue of people from very different sectors to learn from each other, to make new friendships. It always feels a little bit like a homecoming. This afternoon is friends from our pasts and presents show up and support this effort, and we're always so grateful for your participation and your support and your intellectual contributions. I completely agree that within geography's scope of interest, understanding the human environmental dynamics within climate change is just fundamental to who we are and what we do. And partnering, as we have the last 2 years, with the Climate School at Columbia is a wonderful way to move forward and continue this dialogue about an issue that affects all of us and will affect all of us for decades going forward. So I'm delighted to be here, and I hope during the course of the next couple days you get a chance to meet new people and renew old friendships. We have breaks included as well as receptions, so don't be shy. This is a friendly group, and there are a lot of capable, interesting people in the room. I would like to thank several important people. This, as Chris Tucker likes to say, is a barn raising. We couldn't do this without the help of many. So first, I would like to recognize the Council of the American Geographical Society. If you are a council member, will you please stand up? Give them their applause. The council is our board. These are people that contribute their time, energy, and treasure to make sure that AGS is able to move forward and do the important work that we do. Secondly, there were a number of people on the council and not on the council that were in the organizing committee. Can the members of the organizing committee for Geography 2050 please stand up? We are always, if you have a theme that's of interest to you, we are definitely exploring climate change and its impacts in different aspects of geography's future. But if you have an idea, please come to talk to any of the counselors about where we could move Geography 2050 in the coming years. One of the most important groups in the room are our AP Human Geography teachers. Can the AP Human Geography teachers please stand up? AP Human Geography actually started with some of the counselors in this room. Dr. Alec Murphy was one of the original organizers of this idea of, wouldn't it be nice if we could have AP Human Geography? And I don't think the College Board thought it would be very successful. Maybe a few thousand people would take AP Human Geography. But as you know, maybe you don't know, about 250,000 people, students, took the AP exam this May. 250,000. That at least speaks to how geography is being instilled into some of the high school curriculum across America, but it could often go further. And we also are very happy to have the chief reader of AP Human Geography, Lisa Benton Short, who is helpful and responsible. Where are you, Lisa? Don't be shy. If you can imagine, these are 250,000 exams that are not Scantron. People have to read them and mark them. Imagine that task. And I know Lisa's always looking for volunteers, so if you feel like you'd like to do that, see her. And then in the last part of our barn raising we have a number of academic departments who have tables and are also financial sponsors to Geography 2050. Will the academic tables, if you're here from, I know George Washington is here, that's my home institute, Arizona State, please stand up and let your school be seen and heard. And with that, I turn it over to my partner, Chris Tucker.
Well, thank you, Marie. Thanks, everybody, for making the trek. Who is from New York City? All right, so that means all the rest of you traveled to get here, and we really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedules to join this. This is what we've liked to call a multi-year strategic dialogue about the vital trends that will reshape the geography of our planet over the coming decades. If that sounds like a rehearsed line, it is, because I've been saying it for a decade now. And that just tells you it's a multi-year strategic dialogue's been going now for a decade, and there's another decade ahead of us. The topics just don't really end. John touched upon a number, I think a smattering of the topics that we've covered over the past decade. When you think about our planet, the one constant is change. The surface of our planet is constantly changing in many cases, or because of us, right? Because of humans. We have this annoying way of changing the Earth's surface, like 3 to 5 to 7% of the Earth's surface every single year, and whether that is related to mobility or urbanization or any of the previous themes we've had. It literally fundamentally changes the geography of our planet, and that's, I think, one of the things that makes geography so cool. Every year, you're teaching something new. Maybe through the same lens, maybe with a lot of the same methods, but everything is constantly changing on the planet that we have. And, with the humans changing our climate, that's also magnifying many of the risks and the natural hazards that we're facing. And our finance community plays a really important role in helping us literally put the dollars and cents in the right place in order to adapt, to mitigate, and potentially even restore some of these issues related to climate change. So thanks so much for joining us. And I'd just like to thank the organizations that have been by our side for the past decade. The USGIF, if you look at our lanyard, Rhonda Schrank, CEO of USGIF, is here. The US Geospatial Intelligence Foundation has been a partner from the beginning, and their commitment to national security is something that we share and appreciate. The Open Geospatial Consortium, international standards body for all things geo. If you're not familiar with it and you're a technical nerd, then I'd say get with it, people, because you're not paying attention to the right stuff. And if you're not a technical nerd, I don't know, still look at the website or something, because it's really important stuff. It's kind of like what's under the hood that makes the engine roar. And our partners at Youth Mappers, I see Carrie right there, and you have a large Youth Mappers contingent here. Actually, who here is from Youth Mappers? Stand up. If you don't know what Youth Mappers is, go to youthmappers.org, because it's just cool. I was looking at it last night, but I can never remember the number because it always changes. It's like 385 chapters in 79 countries. All right, I got it right. Literally, like next week I'll have to go again because they keep opening chapters all over the world. And Youth Mappers is an amazing thing with our OpenStreetMap community. They've been with us for many years. So thanks so much to all of our partners that have helped. And of course, the Fund for the City of New York, I'm so sorry, who's our fiscal partner in crime, and helps keep our 173-year-old organization vital and going in the right direction. So thank you very much. And then I'd also like to thank our sponsors. This is a barn raising. I say it every year. Thank you, Marie, for quoting me on that. You can be part of the barn raising next year if you'd like to be. But for those of you who heard the call and came running and helping us out to make this happen this year, we really appreciate it. Esri and Iron Eagle X at the top of the stack really coming in. Banner Solutions, thank you so much. Black Cape, Trimble, Planet, Verisk, Maplecroft, T. Carter, Nat Geo, Pixel, Crunchy, Alliance Bernstein, and the AAG. It is your commitment to this process that really allows us to be successful. So thank you very much, and let's give them all a round of applause. And with no further ado, I'd like to introduce our first two speakers of the day, Todd Barr and Briana Brown. Thanks so much for kicking us off. Two terribly interesting people, and you're going to hear some interesting things today. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Russ. All right. Thanks, Brian.
Hi, everybody.
How's everybody doing today? Fine. I typed into Google or to Lyft the climate school. I got dropped down the street, so I had a neat little adventure to get to the venue this morning. It was kind of fun. I like a quest.
I took the train in from Jersey, so I had my own adventure with that. But anyway, thanks for joining us. I'm Briana Brown. I'm the Director of Content and Product Marketing at Ecopia AI.
And I'm Todd Barr. I'm the Director of Geospatial Products and Solutions at Verisk. Briana and I, in our day jobs, we support the insurance industry, mostly through data. With Verisk, I support what we call CAT modeling or catastrophe modeling. And so we do stuff at a macro scale. Most of our models are at a kilometer or so resolution. It's for your major perils, your tropical cyclones, wildfires, earthquakes, and the like.
And at Ecopia, we use AI to extract data and insights from geospatial imagery. So honestly, the best way I can describe my job is I make maps and I write about them, which is pretty cool.
That is cool.
Yep, found my dream job.
So insurance mapping and risk goes way back with insurance. I've become an insurance nerd since I joined the vertical about 5 years ago. After the fire of 1666 in London, businessmen would meet at Lloyd's of London. It was a maritime business shop. And people began taking bets on whether or not ships would make it back to London. Because they needed to rebuild the city, so there's a number of cargo ships would disappear. So they would collect data from sailors and other seafaring folk, and they would just take bets on if the ship would make it from, say, like Cuba back to London, based on storms, piracy, and that kind of stuff. So they had like a general idea of the mapping of the trade routes, and that's where insurance came from initially. And that evolved in what we have today. At Lloyd's, they had, they're called boxes or tables, and ship captains or ship owners would come in and say, and they'd balance their risk out by going, I have 5 ships, one's a really risky ship, and the rest are not risky. So they could balance out basically to ensure that one ship, so their company wouldn't collapse. And the members of Lloyd's, at that time the initial underwriters, would say, okay, then it's X value and going forward. And the ship owners liked it because they wouldn't lose their entire fortune on a single ship going down and being taken by pirates.
But clearly, the industry has changed a lot since then. I mean, we all work with data and technology, software in our day jobs because that is how the industry, in terms of risk assessment and understanding the world, that's how we've evolved since then. But while we all know that as geographers or people adjacent to the geographic community, the vast majority of people in the world still kind of think that, our jobs have to do with paper maps. And I think, people think this is what I do for a living. And that's just not true. And that's incredibly frustrating as we're trying to describe what we do. But it's actually indicative of a larger issue, which is just how people aren't taking advantage, and people in industries, professionals in different industries aren't taking advantage of all of the data and geographic tools that are at our disposal. And that ultimately makes us less resilient to risks because we can't assess them properly in the first place. And so there are certain industries that are a little further along in that geospatial literacy journey than others. I think, cat modeling and insurance is one of those, but we do still have a ways to go, I think, as a geographic community to enable different industries and different professionals to just frankly know what geography can do.
So again, I do cat modeling, or I disseminate cat models for our clients. Cat modeling really came into its own it initially started in 1987 in Boston's Back Bay. As someone who's recently transplanted to Boston, I have to bring up the fact that it's from Boston all the time, right? Like, oh, it's from Boston. They developed cat models using a bunch of geospatial techniques and open data from NOAA and National Weather Service. And then it didn't really find its footing until 1992 with Hurricane Andrew. Up until that point, the insurance industry, to look at an event, to look at how much capital they'd have to have on hand for an event, they looked at historic data. In 1992, they're using Hugo, which was a $4 billion storm in 1989. So they doubled that. So it's like, okay, we have $8 billion in capital. That should be enough for 2 storms. So Hurricane Andrew forms in late August of 1992. The forerunner to the current company I work for, Applied Insurance Research, they run their cat models, and it says it's going to be a $13 billion event. And according to corporate lore, they faxed their clients, because it's 1992, and that's what we did. And they went to lunch at a deli. And when they came back, there was a number of clients who were questioning the validity of the models. Some of the quotes I've heard have been like, there's nothing down there but a bunch of mobile homes and an airbase. Hurricane Andrew went through Florida like a buzzsaw. At the end of the day, it was a $25 billion event. Sure, the cat model it was double what the cat model came up with, but it was still much more accurate than historic data. And as we've moved forward with cat modeling, we become more and more precise with our models and with our predictions at this point.
Yeah, I think my key takeaway just from that story is how important it is to analyze risk from a more granular level. So even, these, like the stock images that were behind us, you could see, like, you do need to understand on a macro level where a storm might hit, because that shows you, okay, these people should be alerted, and this is the general area that needs to potentially, have some sort of mitigation tactics in place. But if you zoom in on a street level, and we have the ability to have that type of data, we do have it, that's how you see how the storm will affect things, and that's what makes cat models stronger. But we're just not using that level of granularity enough, and the evidence of that is really in the headlines. So these headlines behind me are all pretty much from the past year, which is not only scary, but it's also ironic because, yes, there have been a lot of climate events, but we also have never had this level of data, software, geospatial tools at our disposal with which we can understand that risk and get ahead of it. So it doesn't really make sense that now is the time that we're actually like backing away from risk when we really should be facing it head on with all of these tools at our disposal. So there's an unprecedented climate risk, but there's also an unprecedented opportunity to mitigate that risk and become more resilient.
Mm-hmm. And as we're putting these slides together in October, Hurricane Otis happened, hit the west coast of Mexico. I went to bed one night, I forget what day, I think I was in Vegas at the time, and it was like a tropical cyclone, maybe a Cat 1. Woke up the next morning, 12 hours later, it was a Cat 5. This was unprecedented. Our modelers, if you do a Google search or just look at our modelers, this is something that we've never seen before. And so we're in a situation now where our cat models, I don't want to say they're broken, but they need to be adapted to what's happening around us. And as we put more doves and assets in orbit, as we have more IoT devices, we're able to empower our modelers with more geospatial data than ever before. And we're in a really good spot for that from a compute standpoint by leveraging graphical processing units, computing at scale, everything, and like edge computing on satellites, so you can perform the analysis in orbit or have analyst-ready data come beam down from space, as well as ubiquitous broadband internet for the most part. Our modelers are in a really good spot to start developing these models and building climate change into our cat models. Because again, CAT models are based on historical data, and we don't have historical data for climate change to deal with. So we're kind of in a new area of unknown.
Yep, and I think, I mean, AI is really the elephant in the room. I don't think you can expect to go to a tech conference these days, or pretty much any conference, without any mention of AI. And that's definitely true. I think ChatGPT is like a household name at this point too. So AI is becoming more accepted as like a tool that we're gonna use to better mitigate these risks. But there's kind of like two approaches, or at least I've observed two different attitudes towards AI. There's people that think it's gonna be like this, you know, silver bullet that's gonna save everything, and then there's people that don't really want anything to do with it. And in reality, right now, at least as AI stands, and AI is rapidly evolving, so this could be a completely different conversation next year. But at least as it stands right now, we do still need to have a human kind of interaction with AI in terms of, you know, training it, but then also maybe fixing some of the outputs. But what we can't deny is the leverage that AI can give us. And it can get us further along in many different processes, you know, across industries. But specifically for geospatial, I think the biggest opportunity with AI is in analyzing, you know, Earth observation, you know, imagery, and creating data, maintaining it, because it's just not humanly possible for us to create and maintain data as rapidly as the world changes, but we do need that level of freshness in order to understand climate change and adapt to it. So, you know, humans are gonna need to make the decisions. Obviously, like AI is not gonna be doing that. We need to take the insights from data that's derived from AI and then use that to make resilient strategies. I think it's really a partnership at this point with humans and AI.
Right, and as geographers, it puts us in a unique position because we can build the foundation for these AI models using geospatial techniques. And then also we can help, using our knowledge of geospatial data, reduce the biases that are inherent with AI. Because the last thing you want to do is make your bias into an algorithm that makes decisions for people, right? So from an artificial intelligence standpoint and a data standpoint, geographers are going to have to be the human in the loop in this by providing more inputs into the models and making the models more resilient and more focused. And so our models can become more accurate, so we can start warning people about an event that goes from 0 to 5 overnight, and then we lose 27 people because, you know, hurricanes are awful as it is, but you can't prepare for, if we can no longer say for 5 days out, this is going to be a Cat 5 hurricane, we're going to be in a lot of trouble coming forward. And then as geographers and as geospatially aware folks, it's up to us to build those AI models and to build those models that allow us to predict and make those predictive analytics, so we can warn people and protect our infrastructure as well as make our society more resilient.
And I mentioned earlier how not enough industries are using geospatial data and geospatial capabilities to the extent that they should. And yes, that's true, but we are trending in the right direction. I mean, over the past few years, I've seen so many job descriptions that list geospatial skill sets within the requirements. And I mean, I'm not talking GIS analyst jobs. These are just jobs in a lot of different industries that never had anything to do with analytics or maps. But we're starting to become more geospatially literate as a society. But as geographers, we need to continue to, you know, encourage people to take geography classes and embed it within other jobs and industries. Like, that is our role as we continue to innovate. So, you know, I think we can really think of this term geo-enablement. I've heard that a lot this past year, of how we can empower people through geography to understand our world. We have the data, we have the technology, but we need to, as an industry, collectively empower everybody else to take advantage of all of this data at our disposal.